How's it going, everyone? This is the George here, and today we are continuing our review series of the recent Planet of the Apes trilogy leading up to Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Back in February, we reviewed Rise of the Planet of the Apes, and now we move on to Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. This is the sequel to the 2011 film. This came out in 2014, directed by Matt Reeves this time, and once again stars Andy Serkis as Caesar. It also stars Jason Clarke, Gary Oldman, Kerry Russell, and Toby Kebbell. And in this movie, this takes place 10 years after the events of Rise of the Planet of the Apes. And we see the simian flu has spread. We see a similar looking map to the one that we saw in the credits of Rise of the Planet of the Apes. Only this time, instead of that yellow light that's showing where the virus is spreading to and where it's going to spread to next, you see a red light, which I guess gives it a more dark, eerie feel to it because this apparently killed a lot of humans. It's got a lot of humans sick within the years, and you see clips and montages of protests happening, politicians and newscasters saying what's happening, be aware of the virus and all that. And then, Michael Giacchino's score is very dark and bleak and adds a lot to this. We're just wondering how much of humanity is still left. And also, what's going on with the apes after they had disappeared into the woods after what happened on the Golden State Bridge. And then right away, we see Caesar's face, and the apes are hunting. They're going on a hunt. And we see that the ape colony has grown since then. As humanity has declined, the ape colony has grown. And they made a nice little home for themselves in the woods. And this really established the tone very well. And I remember watching the trailers for this movie. I knew there was going to be a new director without even looking it up because the tone just felt different. The stakes looked different. And it was captured right in the beginning. This was going to be a much more darker, more, I wouldn't say gritty, but a much more mature film compared to the previous one. And this was also my introduction to Matt Reeves. Now, I know Matt Reeves also did Cloverfield before this movie came out, but I didn't see Cloverfield at the time. It was after this movie came out that I've seen it. But Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, along with War for the Planet of the Apes, made me fully confident in Matt Reeves directing the Batman, which he did a phenomenal job with. But let's get back to Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. So, according to the apes, it's been quite a while since they've seen the humans. They have no idea what has happened to humans until Caesar's son Blue Eyes, along with his friend Ash, Rocket's son, stumble upon humans. They get shot at. And this brings back some bad memories for Koba, who is a loyal ape to Caesar at this point. But when he sees the humans, he starts saying, "We got to attack the humans. We got to go after the humans." But Caesar decides we're going to do it in a much more, I guess, peaceful way. All the apes go to what's left of humanity in San Francisco and basically says we don't want a war, but look at our numbers. If we have to fight, we're going to fight, which is basically Caesar's approach to what is happening. But the reason the humans are in the force isn't to attack the apes or ruin what they have. It's because they're trying to get to this dam that has this power generator to get power back into the city. And so this group of humans, well, the San Francisco group is led by Gary Oldman's character Dreyfus, but the humans that are in the woods are led by someone named Malcolm, played by Jason Clarke, and he makes a plea to Caesar saying, "Just let us do our work. We just want to get our power restored. We don't want to lead to any harm." And Caesar decides to let them. And this causes a lot of tension between Caesar and Koba. Now, Koba's the main villain in this movie. And I just gotta say, Koba is one of the best villains in a movie. Now, right in Rise of the Planet of the Apes, we kind of knew this guy was a bit sketchy, especially when he let Will's boss die at the end of Rise of the Planet of the Apes, or basically kicked down the helicopter to make it fall, leading him to his death. And he almost killed Will before Caesar stopped him. So, this guy obviously has no love for humans. But we learn a bit more about Koba in this movie. And he basically says that humans experimented on him, and each scar that he had was human work. And this is where you see the ideologies of Caesar and Koba are completely different. Now, Caesar, while he doesn't have that much love for humans, he's also seen the good in humans. He's cared for a few humans, and he sees the good in Malcolm and his family. I wouldn't say his group, because there is that one guy in the group that's not afraid to shoot at the apes or point his gun at the apes, which causes quite a few problems as they're trying to fix this dam and try to get power back. But you definitely see that Caesar has a more peaceful approach, and he does say this might be our one chance to have peace with the humans. But Koba's not buying it. You see Caesar's son, Blue Eyes, he's pretty much torn between what Caesar believes and what Koba believes, and you see that he's starting to believe more of what Koba believes in. And I gotta say Jason Clark as Malcolm, while he doesn't fill the hole that James Franco's Will did with having that bond with Caesar, the friendship that Malcolm develops with Caesar, it's very genuine. It's developed pretty well. And you also see why he's doing the things that he's doing. Malcolm opens up and says that his son had seen things that no kid should have seen, when you consider the fact that he basically grew up as the simian flu was forming. And then you find out that, his new wife, played by Carrie Russell, she once worked for the CDC, and she once had a daughter who also died due to the simian flu. So you're basically seeing what some of these human characters have lost, and that also goes with Gary Oldman's character Dreyfus. And I remember the trailers thinking to myself, Gary Oldman's going to be the stereotypical human that just wants to wipe out the apes, but that's not really the case. I mean, yeah, he has this armory with weapons in case they have to kill the apes, but it's more so to get to the power. And he gives Malcolm a chance to make peace with the apes, but if peace doesn't work, then he'll have no choice but to use force. But you also see how desperate that he is, because he's the leader of this group of humans that survived the simian flu. And then when power eventually does come back on, he looks in his iPad and sees pictures of his family, his kids, for the first time in Lord knows how long. And you see him tear up. You feel bad for him, because you don't know how long it's been since his kids were alive. You don't know how long it's been since he's been able to see pictures of his kids. So you feel bad for him. Of the human villains in the Planet of the Apes movies, at least this new trilogy, he's the most sympathetic of the human villains, the one that you feel the most sorry for, because he's using violence as a last resort against the apes. And had Koba not tried to frame the humans by shooting Caesar and burning the ape village and using a human gun, and by the way that Blue Eye says human gun when he discovers the human gun that he thinks killed his father, where it's just so dramatic and it really captures the eerie feel. But had Koba not done that stuff, there could have been peace, and he wouldn't have had to do the drastic stuff that he later did in the movie. But yeah, Koba, like, he basically, you can tell this guy, like, his hatred for humans is so strong that he's willing to go to great lengths, go into the armory and steal a gun, kill a couple of humans, kill Caesar, even though Caesar's looking right down at him in that moment. And right as, like, Caesar finally thinks he can have peace with the humans, and basically gets all the apes to go with him into the human city to invade it. And he doesn't care that these apes are getting shot at by these humans. It's a very dramatic scene, and it feels like the opposite of the scene in Rise of the Planet of the Apes, when the apes are, you know, rampaging through San Francisco, because they're rampaging through it, but Caesar doesn't really want the humans to get killed. He just wants to make a statement. He just wants to escape and all that. While Koba's basically saying, yeah, we're going to shoot at all you guys, and we're going to throw you guys into cages, whoever's still alive. But yeah, Koba just riding on a horse, shooting at humans, is one of the most craziest but most badass scenes, pardon my language, that I have ever seen. It is a great scene and just shows how crazy and the great lengths that Koba is going to go. And then later on, as they're, rounding up the humans, Koba wants Ash to basically beat one of the humans, but Ash is like, Caesar wouldn't want this. He grabs Ash and just throws him off the balcony, killing Ash, and basically says Caesar is gone and that he is in charge. And this is where, Blue Eyes is starting to not be so warm towards Koba, because at first Koba's manipulating him, and Koba's saying, like, we're gonna honor your father, we're gonna avenge him, and Blue Eyes is buying into it. But then when he sees what happens to Ash, and then sees Maurice, Rocket, and all the other apes that are very loyal to Caesar and don't want to do what Koba wants, are basically chained up, and I'm pretty sure it was a trolley cart. That's when you see Blue Eyes is becoming unsure and is starting to not buy into what Koba wants. But Caesar does survive, and they're brought. He's Malcolm's family brings him to Caesar's old home, where Caesar rests and heals. Malcolm finds Blue Eyes, and this is where you can tell Blue Eyes is not buying into Koba's beliefs fully, because he has an opportunity to shoot at Malcolm, but instead he doesn't. But Malcolm brings him back to the house, and Caesar and Blue Eyes have a moment. Blue Eyes starts to understand as he looks at pictures of Caesar in his old home with Will why Caesar cares for humans or doesn't like hate humans as much as Koba does. Why, their differences, and Caesar apologizes. And then we have that intense fight scene between Caesar and Koba on top of the tower, and it is brutal, it is gritty, and I love it. It's one of my favorite final fights in a movie, especially in the last 10 years. It's definitely one of the best in the last 10 years. Which, by the way, I can't believe it's going to be 10 years this July since this movie came out. It's aged so well. And then you see Dreyfus. This is where he starts taking the drastic actions, where he tries to blow up the tower, calls in the army because he's desperate and he's not buying into Malcolm saying, we got to give Caesar time and all that. But yeah, he also kills a couple of his men, Dreyfus. So this is where he starts to go on that deep end. But yes, yeah, Koba, he doesn't care at this point. He just wants to kill Caesar, and he's shooting at all the other apes. He injures Maurice, and Caesar grabs him by the arm. And Koba, who is quite a hypocrite because he's killed, not because he tried killing Caesar, he killed Ash. He probably killed other apes off screen. Basically says to Caesar, ape, not kill ape. But Caesar basically says, Koba, not ape, and he just drops him and he falls to his death. And then you have that scene between Malcolm and Caesar where we're like, they're upset because, their one chance of peace has been ruined. Caesar wants Malcolm and his family to get out of here before the fighting starts, and they have a great friendship moment. And that's another thing I like about Malcolm. They're not having him replace Will, where Will was basically Caesar's human father who cared for him, and Caesar cared for him. But it's like a friendship between a human and an ape. They both want to have peace, and like there's things on both sides that's preventing them from having that peace. But I just like the friendship between them. And Andy Serkis just does an incredible job with this performance as Caesar. The motion capture work is still incredible as always. Toby Kebbell as Koba was also incredible as well. A great villain. And it's hard to believe that a year later he was Dr. Doom in Fan Four Stick. This guy seriously needs to get more villain roles, because despite what happened with Dr. Doom, he was fantastic as Koba. But yeah, in regards to Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, this is a great movie that raises the stakes. It goes in a darker direction, but it does it so well where you still know it and feel like a sequel to Rise of the Planet of the Apes. The acting is still great, especially from the motion capture actors and Andy Serkis and Toby Kebbell. Michael Giacchino's score captures the mood of scenes so well. And overall, with Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, this is one of my favorite movies of all time. This is definitely one of the best sequels of all time. I'm going to give Dawn of the Planet of the Apes an A+. This has a terrific story with terrific characters, whether it's the human characters or the ape characters. It's got a great storyline and a great build-up leading into War for the Planet of the Apes. And yeah, if you haven't seen Dawn of the Planet of the Apes or any of these Planet of the Apes movies, go watch them. They are terrific. Like I said, this is an A+ movie. It's one of my favorite sequels of all time. And it was one of my favorite movies of 2014. I mean, 2014 was such a great year for movies, but because we had a lot of great, Oscar-worthy movies and a lot of great superhero movies, I feel like Dawn of the Planet of the Apes gets lost in that conversation of one of the best movies of 2014. And not only is it one of the best movies of 2014, it's one of the best movies of the 2010s. I'm just going to be brutally honest. It definitely is. But yeah, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Have you seen it? What you think about it? And what's your favorite Planet of the Apes movies? And you can also include the original movies as well in this. For me, it's still this movie. This is still one of the greatest Planet of the Apes movies of all time. The greatest of all time. It's one of the greatest movies of all time in the 2010s, though. Let me know in the comments down below what you think. And I want to thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe or rate if you haven't. Please share this with someone that loves the Planet of the Apes movies. And I hope to see you guys real soon. Take care, everyone.